Welcome back to the show. We're going to try something a little bit different. It's the day after the All-Star game. It's the deadest day in sports. Bill Center is here. I'm Jesse Agler. We've got a very special guest. Casey is here. Mighty Casey.
At the bat.
Casey at the bat is here. He is a fan of the program, as we found out on Twitter somewhat recently, which, appreciate it. Always nice to know that a famous literary icon is into your show. But Casey, he watches the show, and he says, I want to come on and visit on Padres Social Hour. So welcome, Casey at the bat. Welcome.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here. I'll tell you, I used to come to games. I was telling Bill at Jack Murphy, my first day watching the Padres was Tony Gwynn's first game.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm, July 1982.
Wow.
So that was your rookie moment, your
that was
debut.
my rookie moment, and I came to San Diego for the weather, like hoop, whatever, and it was like, brought up in Yankee Stadium, and I was saying to myself, can you imagine coming here and watching them? What do they need a tarp for? They'll never need the tarp, and 30 years later, 4 or 5 rainouts?
Yeah.
Right.
It's unbelievable. All right, so you're Casey at the bat. Tell us a little bit about you being Casey at the bat.
When I was a young ball player many years ago, Bill and I are pretty much contemporaries as far as age goes. Anyway, I won't talk about that. But I was on the bus, and you might understand I'm a little bit of an outgoing guy. So the guys would gravitate around me, win or lose, and I would just tell stories. I would tell stories. I started off by telling fiction stories about Joe Christopher. Remember the old New York Mets outfielder?
Right.
And I would say, Joe and I knew each other. Oh, no, you didn't know Joe. And I said, oh, I knew Joe. And I would start to fabricate something, and the guys would start laughing. In fact, our managers throughout the years, and I went to Walt Whitman High School, which was A.J. Preller School. Remember I tweeted that to you?
That's right.
And A.J. was put into our Hall of Fame a few years ago. Won't answer my calls because, he's a big shot. Maybe he's a GM of San Diego. Maybe I'll come in and say, hey, Preller, you were a Wildcat. I was a Wildcat 27 years before you. But they liked it. They loved the stories. They would roll on the aisles laughing. But after a loss, that was a problem because the manager would come back and say, well, what the heck's going on out here? Did you guys lose a ball game or did you win a ball game? But Steve, he's funny. And I started doing Casey.
There you go. So that's how you became Casey at the bat. You've got a bat here. It is not Casey's.
No.
But what was the story with this bat? Bill was just starting to tell me off the air.
I know. He just fit it in, and, it was sort of like a prompt. It was ask him about the bat. Well, because of the fact that I've, as Casey, done so many events over the years, I was asked by the Yankees, with a connection I had, to come to Fort Lauderdale in 1985. Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford were doing fantasy camps. They were one of the first ones, along with Hundley of the Cubs, and it's evolved into a major business now. But I think the Padres had one for a number of years also in San Diego with Jack Murphy. Anyway, Mickey Mantle sought me out, and he said, hey, you use a split grip. He said, some of these guys would really learn to, And so I was talking to Bobby Mercer, who I got to be good friends with, and we lost him too soon. And Mickey would say, hey, come on over. You get Hank Bauer, who was a real quiet character. You ever meet Bauer?
I did.
Oh, he was, he was like one of those guys, He'd say, hey, Hank, Mickey's in the Hall of Fame. What the hell do I care about the Hall of Fame for? That sucks, the Hall of Fame. Everybody in the Hall of Fame sucks. It's like, I think they said about Hank Bauer that he had a face like a clenched fist.
Right.
Yeah.
Marine.
Ex-Marine. He was a tough guy. But that's the guys that played ball then. So Mickey called me down to his office one day and said, you're the most valuable player of the camp. I said, Mickey, I'm performing here. I'm performing. I don't want to take an award. He said, yeah, but I want you to have this bat, and it has your name on it. So can you still see that?
It does.
Wow. So Mickey Mantle gave you a bat. That's that by itself is a pretty cool story, but that's a neat thing. So, all right, so you go along, and we'll give out your Twitter, your Facebook information, everything like that. But you go around, you perform the poem, and just sort of make baseball merriment wherever you go, as I understand.
Well, and this is my spring training, so I had to wear my spring training outfit.
Oh, okay.
Normally, I'm wearing my Mudville jersey. It cost me a lot of money.
Has the big M on it? That's how it's always.
Mudville across.
Oh, it says Mudville.
I have the M one also in pictures.
Okay.
But this one's, Mudville. And, the pants, I wear the socks with the stirrups the real way. And the way my dad, who played for the Dodgers in 1934, he went to the spring training camp and got me into baseball. He showed me how the old-time guys would wear their stirrups by ripping out the elastic in their pants, turning it upside down, and then tying a shoelace around it, and then bringing the pants back over.
Wow. That
It's
is old
some
school.
of those guys that really, and I know you love this, Jesse, because you're a uniform guy.
Yes.
Like Hunter Pence.
Yeah, he's got it like above the knee.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
It's
he
crazy.
wears his whole uniform. He could probably takes 3 hours. Guys come 3 hours before a game. It probably takes him 3 hours to put the uniform
Just
on.
to get dressed.
Jesse Hahn has the
Jesse
high
Hahn's
stirrups.
got the high
Right.
stirrups too. All right, good. Can you give us a little Casey at the back?
Yeah, and I'll give it to you, and then time if you want me to speed up or whatever. Okay.
All right.
Are you ready?
Blooper will speed you up if need
Can I
be.
take a little glass of water?
No,
just
of course,
Just to
absolutely.
wet my whistle.
Steve is Casey at the bat. He performs. Give out the Twitter information before you get going, too, so people
I'm
can
at
find you.
Steve Tarde, and my name is SteveTarde if you're worried about that. You can find it on Facebook at Steve Tarde, or you can email me at stevetarde@gmail.com.
There you go. Okay.
Okay?
Take it
All
away.
right. Here we go. The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2 with but one more inning to play. And so when Cooney died at first and Barrows did the same, a sickly silence fell upon the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to the hope which springs eternal in the human breast. They thought, if only Casey could get a whack at that, they'd put up even money now with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, as did also Jimmy Blake, and the former was a Lulu and the latter was a cake. So upon this stricken multitude, I said, grim melancholy sat, for there seemed little chance of Casey getting to the bat. But Flynn the driver singled, and to the wonderment of all, Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted, they saw what had occurred. There was Jimmy safe at second, and Flynn a hugging third. Then from 10,000 joyous throats rose up a muffled roar. It bounded in the mountaintop and recoiled in the flat, for Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was poise in Casey's bearing and a smile on Casey's face. And while responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his cap. No stranger in the crowd to doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped them on his shirt. And while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance gleamed in Casey's eye. A sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered spear came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood a-watching in haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman, the ball unheeded sped. That ain't my style, said Casey. Strike! One! The umpire said. From the benches black with people there rose up a muffled roar, like the beating of a storm upon a stern and distant shore. Kill him! Kill the umpire! Shouted someone in the stand. It was likely they would have killed him had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stopped the rising tumult. He bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once more the spheroid flew. But Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, "That's two!" "Fraud!" cried the maddened thousands. And the echo answered, "Fraud!" But one startled look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face so stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain, and they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. And now the pitcher has the ball. And now he lets it go. And the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Somewhere in this joyous land, the sun is shining bright. And somewhere men are laughing. And somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere children are shouting. And few people will pout But the truth of it all is this. Mighty Casey has just struck out.
Steve Tarde on Twitter at Steve Tarde, Tarde. That was a lot more intense than I was expecting. That was an act, like a one-man show.
Right.
Casey at the bat. Steve, really appreciate it. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me, guys. I love your show, and I'll tell everybody about it as more as I can.
Appreciate it.
We'll build up a big following.
Big following. We love it.